Welcome back, everybody. Sean again from Excelsior Sabers. So we have an unboxing video for today, and this is going to be a Qui-Gon lightsaber from 89 Sabers. This just got here today from Saber Bay. Super fast shipping. Thank you very much. So let's get right into it. Oh wow, nice. Alright, woof, that is very sleek, isn't it? Yeah, this is always such a gorgeous design, Qui-Gon's lightsaber. Okay, so I like that it's mostly assembled, so you get a nice little impression of it, you know, when you first take it out of the box. So, just to give an overview. Okay, there's our pommel. We have kind of an interesting looking design here on the cover tech. Obviously that's a little bit of a departure from the original. But okay, first impressions are it looks great. I think it's really neat seeing the deep grooves. That definitely makes it a lot more authentic to the original prop. Very lightweight, but of course it doesn't have anything installed in it at the moment. But then again, you know, I'm used to like a lot of Corband hilts that are made out of just aluminum are pretty light like this, so this doesn't seem like anything unusual to me. I don't feel any sharp edges anywhere, so the machining is pretty well done. They've taken that into consideration. So one of the worst things is when you open a hilt and the first thing you do when you touch it, you start feeling like you're going to get cut on the thing. You know, remember these are supposed to be sword handles, so you know you want them to be nice and smooth, so you don't get all cut up from them. All right, so let's just go ahead and take this thing apart a little bit. Okay, so here's our pommel cap, and you can see the design there for the sound vents. That looks really nice because you don't even really notice it. You know, when it's if you see like at an angle, you don't even really see those holes. So that's a nice design. And I also like how wide and how open that is. Obviously, you're going to be able to get a decent sized speaker in this hilt. So let's take a look at what we got here. So here's like a little 28mm speaker I always use just to test fit things. So obviously that'll work. Let's bump it up. Let's see if a 31mm speaker would fit in here. These are my favorite speakers. No, that's not going to happen. Alright, so it looks like 28mm it is. And right, so that much for the pommel. Let's move on. Let's go ahead and see what's going on up here in the emitter. So there's our set screw. Okay. So you can see that. Looks like that's pretty well hidden. It's partially covered up by the emitter ring here. And you know, there's a little bit, you can see where they drilled and tapped for the set screw, and you can see a little bit of the aluminum is the silver showing through, but that's pretty easy to touch that up with some aluminum black, some chemical coloring there you can get. It will change the color of that to a nice flat black. So that's one way of dealing with that. Now let's go ahead and just leave this part here. So let's take a look here. Now we've got a little, looks like we have an Allen screw there, so let me see if I can find the right size for that. We can pop that one out. We can take this shroud off. That's going to be too small. Yeah. It's always the one you need is the one that's missing, right? Let's try one of these. Bingo. Yeah, a little tight there. Alright. Alright, so that's taken out. So let's go ahead and look at this again a little closer. You can see it just kind of has these sort of milled pockets in it. These little, kind of even looks a little bit like what they did on the pommel. So, you know, obviously that's a little bit of a departure from the original prop, but hey, you know, these things are not perfect, and everybody who designs these has their own style to them, so they like to add their own little flair in different ways. But obviously, if you want, you can always put a regular cover tech on here to make it look more accurate. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the shroud off. Alright, so let's look at the shroud here. Okay, so again, a nicely deburred. The profile looks pretty close. I remember these little nubs here. The Master Replicas version, they kind of hooked down a little bit more than that, but that's pretty close anyway. Yeah, everything looks really nice. I don't see any major blemishes, so pretty good machining. There's a nice curve up here. This isn't just, sometimes you'll see like, you know, have a little sharp angle on things like this, but no, it looks really good. Okay, let's take a look here at the body of the hilt. So, looks like, okay, there's another screw here, and that's how you get into the guts of it. Let's see, nothing else. Oh, this does, okay. Yeah, so this does assemble a little further. That's going to help. That's going to help a lot when I do the install. Alright, so that's nice. I wonder what the diameter on this is here. It's probably 1 inch. Well, there's one way to find out. Here's a 1-inch blade. Yep. Alright, so if you want to run, looks like if you want to run a 7/8 inch blade in this hilt, you are going to have to use an adapter. And how thick is, okay, so this is pretty thick here still, so that's nice. So your set screw has some meat here to grab into. It's not real thin, and that's important since it has the larger blade. Alright, let's go ahead and just throw this on here. Okay. Take this out. Okay, so that's a pretty tiny screw. Alright. So obviously, you know, this is a deep groove hilt, so you're not going to have a ton of room to work with here, but you know what? That is totally reasonable because we can get our battery. Go ahead and just throw this back together for a second. Alright, so we can get our speakers, obviously going to go down in here. You've got plenty of room for whichever soundboard you want. Obviously Profi boards, CFX, those are pretty tiny, so you get the best boards and it doesn't hardly take up any real estate in your hilt, so that's not a problem. The biggest thing is going to be the battery. You're going to have to figure that out. Obviously that's going to probably go up here, and yeah, there'll be plenty of room for the battery to mount up here. Now it's probably going to leave about 1.5 inches for blade depth if you go with an 18650, and that's totally fine. I mean, I've done blades with 3/4 of an inch of blade depth, and you know, if you do it right, it can work out pretty well. So yeah, installing this isn't going to be an issue, and I know that from looking on Shapeways that Rick Ryo already has. That is Goth 3D. He already has a chassis solution for this. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be pretty straightforward install. So let's take a look. What else did this thing come with? We've got our shroud here. We need an activation switch. Oh, here we go. Okay, we got a little bag of goodies. Alright. Oh, go figure. It would have helped to open the package a little bit more, huh, Sean? Nice. Alright, so he's already got the Allen wrenches here for us. So here's our switch and our blade plug. And blade plug is nice because that is going to, if you go with a Tri-Cree in this, that'll give you a shine through. And even if you do NeoPixel, you can go ahead and throw a little bit of a strip of NeoPixels in here and get an extra connector, and you can still get the shine through effect even with NeoPixels. I'm totally a NeoPixel convert for pretty much everything now, although, you know, Tri-Cree definitely has its place if you're using a hilt that's dedicated to fencing or just, you know, practice dueling. But NeoPixels are very durable, and if you do them right, they'll hold up to fencing anyway. So this one's definitely going to get a NeoPixel blade. Now this is nice. This already is assembled. So this is, okay, so this kind of a switch, this looks very familiar. I know from a lot of Corbant kits, that particular kind of switch, you'll see that. Now they've already got all this glued together. I'm going to take this apart, I can tell you that right now. The reason is not that it doesn't, it's a nice switch. Trust me, it works great. But I'm not liking this red button here just because the profile of it is a bit off. The knurling is also incorrect to the original prop. The original prop, this was a blanking cap, and the knurling on those was, whoops, the knurling on those was internal. This is external knurling. So, let me zoom in. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now you can see a little bit better. So, I mean, it's not bad, but it's also, it could be better. So that's definitely something I'm going to want to improve on. But, you know, it's not a bad start. So yeah, just a few thoughts then, just in general on this hilt. Just to wrap this up, I would say, okay, well, let me go ahead and put it back together first. Okay, so now that it's all together, let me just go ahead and finish up my thoughts here. So all in all, you know, this was a really nice hilt for pretty good price, and I think it has a lot of potential. Now, here are a few things that I'm gonna do to it myself just to improve it, at least, you know, in my own eyes, and that always includes making things more accurate to the original prop. So the first thing I'm planning on doing is, although these areas here are already black, they're anodized black, what I'd like to do is give them a matte black powder coat. The reason I like to do that to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon's lightsabers from Phantom Menace is because the original props for these were just painted black, and the matte black powder coat makes it really look accurate to the original prop because it really mimics that paint look. And if you look at reference photos from the original props, you'll notice that they look very shiny, but it's not because they had a gloss finish. Rather, it's because they were painted, and the paint, as the actors used the hilts and carried them around, the paint would get smoother and kind of get glossier over time from wear. So the powder coat actually does a nice job at mimicking that. So that's the first thing, that's the first major change I want to make to it. Other minor details, of course, I'm going to find a way to improve this. The activation switch here, just probably replace this with a more accurate blanking cap replica, and that's going to fix that. Obviously I'll use a real CoverTech wheel right here, and as far as the emitter is concerned, the original props for these, it's just like Obi-Wan's lightsaber, the original props for these had a fender washer, and they were assembled around a steel rod, and that's why you see even right here, you'll see even on this blade plug, there's that engraved indentation that's meant to mimic the look of a steel rod. So, you know, one of the things I like to do with these, like here's an old Corbant OWK. This one actually, the blade plug for this, let me just go ahead and take this off for a second. This one is actually, this actually shows what I'm talking about. So here's one that I have lathed out the surface of this, installed a fender washer and a steel rod insert, and just epoxied that in there. And this serves as now as a nice static blade plug for my Corbant OWK. So I'm probably going to do something, I would like to do something like that for this. However, I'm actually not going to, probably, because doing that would require that I actually fabricate a whole new emitter ring here, since the kit only came with the one that's meant to be used with a blade. The old Corbant OWK kits actually came with two different emitters. One was a 7/8 inch blade, the other one was for 1 inch blade. This only comes with a 1 inch blade emitter, so you don't have that option of having a secondary emitter ring as just a static blade plug. Be that as it may, I definitely will be installing a 7/8 inch blade in this, and doing that within a 1 inch hilt is very easy. You just have to create a little adapter piece. Some people make those out of an extra thin-walled 1 inch blade. I usually actually I just machine it out of metal, and that way I can get a really nice fit. So that's what I'll be doing there, and yeah, I think from that, aside from that, that's going to finish this one up. I'd like to put a new pixel blade in it with either a Profi board or a crystal focus, and yeah, that's gonna do it. If there was one other thing I would like to do, and this is really getting a little crazy, would probably be to remove the clear anodizing on this shroud piece, just because if you really want to get into it, the original props weren't anodized, and you can tell because these aluminum outer pieces get really scuffed up and worn, and the original props, you can tell they're well worn in that way. So obviously if you remove the clear anodizing, you're going to end up with metal that's a lot softer and is going to show a lot more imperfections. So that's just one caveat. You know, again, to some degree these things are idealized, and the further you go down the path of idealization, the further you go from the path of accuracy, and it just depends on what you're going after. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this, and stay tuned for a future build video. It's going to be a lot of fun to get a Qui-Gon lightsaber built up. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Got more stuff coming.